Hello everybody. So I'm going to do a question here. Why isn't Donald Trump releasing the Epstein files? So from Jeffrey Epstein's client list. Why aren't they being released? Now currently they're saying, there are no files. They previously said there were. I think there probably are. Let's just go with that one. Pretty sure there are, because they wouldn't have said there were if there weren't. So I think we can just all agree that there are some files. So what's on these files? Well, we know that Jeffrey Epstein, he blackmailed people, manipulated people every which way, and that's how he got away with doing the sort of stuff he was doing for as long as he was. And he involved a lot of high profile people. Now there's three people that are extremely high profile that he was involved with. These are Prince Andrew of England, Bill Clinton, the former president of USA, and Donald Trump, the current president of USA. Now, those three figures I single out. I'm not worrying about anyone else, because those three all had the potential to, or the ability to assassinate or order the assassination of Jeffrey Epstein. And Jeffrey Epstein, when he died, I'm going to say he was assassinated. Now, I know like some people say, oh no, he just died of natural causes. He was in a suicide-proof cell. There's so much evidence to suggest that he was assassinated. So we have essentially those three options for who assassinated him. Now I'll go over each for how they could do it. Now if President Donald Trump did it, he would simply order, like he'd have to go through Congress and he'd have to order for it to happen. Now, there's no way of knowing if he did do that or not, because doing such things, whilst there is a rule for how it's done, it has to be done quite secretly, and the press would not be allowed to know about it. Now, there might have been a leak, there hasn't been a leak, but just because we don't know about it doesn't mean it didn't happen. So that's a rather easy way for it to happen. Now, the second easiest is Prince Andrew, or at least his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II. Now, she would again need to have permission of the Parliament and stuff, although in theory she can actually just do it by herself. But because it's in USA where it happened, she would need to have at least some sort of complicity from USA. Not necessarily from the president, but probably from the president, but certainly people in a position that would at least turn a blind eye to it. So, and the third one that's the most difficult, but still plausible, is Bill Clinton. Now, Bill Clinton, as the former president of USA, still would have had connections, and his wife, Hillary Clinton, was in a prominent position. She had vied for the presidency herself, had just lost it. So even though for him or for Bill or Hillary to individually do it would be more difficult than for Donald Trump or Queen Elizabeth II, because there's two of them, both in positions of power. Hillary Clinton was effectively like the second or third most powerful on the Democrat side, and she would have been the most powerful had she won the presidency. So she was probably only behind Joe Biden and Barack Obama as the most powerful Democrat, and probably still is realistically. She's very powerful there. Bill Clinton was the former president, and combined they would have, perhaps a bit unofficially, they would certainly have the ability to pull off an assassination. Now, working out which one of those three was behind it, we can also look at where the three people are that were on the list, and we know they're all on the list, but what that meant as far as them being on the list. Now, Prince Andrew did a plea deal. He's no longer a prince. He almost certainly was guilty of some pretty serious stuff there. So he had the most reason to want to do it, or at least his mother did, and we know that Queen Elizabeth II and the royal family are all about cover-ups. So they had by far the most motive. Now, both Donald Trump and Bill Clinton did know Jeffrey Epstein. There's no doubt that they knew him, but there's also very little evidence to suggest that either of them did anything with children. Whilst they do have claims against them related to adults, none of them are about children, and that's a clear distinction. That, people that sexually abuse adults don't usually sexually abuse children. Now, there are some people that do both, and and maybe that could be the situation here, but the chances are, and considering they weren't young adults, they were quite mature and, They weren't just barely turned 18, they were quite a bit older. And Bill Clinton, of course, he had the affair with Monica Lewinsky, and then he had other relationships. He cheated on his wife, and that's about as far as we go with him. Now, Donald Trump, of course, we have two issues. One was the alleged affair with that porn star Smokey Daniels, and she claimed that he gave her a bribe to shut up about it. And then there was the apparent sex with forgotten her name, but the one that did the civil suit, and then for defamation, and they had to change all the laws and didn't really prove what they said they proved, and so forth. So he had two very flimsy ones about essentially affairs, although the one against the one that wasn't a porn star may have had something non-consensual, but sort of not really at that level. Whilst Bill Clinton was more of a cover-up, but also we're just talking about affairs. So which of those two is more likely, number one, to have done something with Jeffrey Epstein, and number two, to want it covered up? And I'd say neither of them come to the level of Prince Andrew, realistically. And even though we'd say Queen Elizabeth II is the second most likely to have the most power behind Donald Trump, the motivation is just so much higher that I'd have to say, unless I see some evidence to the contrary, I think that probably Jeffrey Epstein was killed by Queen Elizabeth II. Now, she probably didn't come up to America and went into the jail cell and, slashed his throat, but she would have ordered it. And I don't know exactly how they go about ordering these things, but perhaps it was just, someone suggested it. It's a bit like the assassination of Princess Diana, and it may have come as a direct order from Queen Elizabeth II, or it may have been a bit more indirect. It may have been more of a suggestion. But either way, I don't think there's any real doubt who ordered the assassination of Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think it was either Bill Clinton or Donald Trump. I think it was Queen Elizabeth II. Now, with that in mind, why wouldn't Donald Trump want to release it? Well, the thing is, in order for the assassination by Queen Elizabeth II to happen, there need to be some complicity from the Americans. And the easiest way for that to happen is if there was some complicity by Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump isn't on the list as far as that's all concerned. I don't think there's any doubt that he's not. He didn't do the same things that Prince Andrew probably did. And there's no accusations against him, by the way, about that, nor is there against Bill Clinton. And there are tons against Prince Andrew. So, but I think that he would have been involved, as in Trump would have been involved with Epstein's assassination. So I'd suggest that that's why, well, he probably wanted it released, thinking, we'll just release the names, and he's happy to have the names released because he's not on there. But then I think that something must have happened where they said, but this will also reveal that you helped to assassinate him. Now, number one, I think that the Crown, so it's now King Charles III, he wouldn't really want that information out there. They've gone to lengths to hide the assassination of Princess Diana, so I dare say they're going to go to lengths to hide this too. And so they would be pressuring Trump not to release it. But not only that, because he did help it to the assassination to take place, and even though probably only to the level of turning a blind eye to it, that would hurt his presidency if people knew that he had Epstein assassinated. Because, well, if nothing else, firstly they'd say, he can assassinate people. Yes, obviously, America can do that. But number two, they would then see that as an admission of guilt. Whereas why Trump would actually want that to happen, and Bill Clinton would have too, is more because they don't want the reputation against them. So I'm going to say that the list does not have Donald Trump on it, and it does not have Bill Clinton on it, but that Trump is being manipulated to not release it by the royal family of England. So That's what I think is happening. Now, I don't mean that to protect Donald Trump. If Donald Trump is on the list, he obviously deserves to be exposed. But what can we do about that? Well, these are very powerful people. The King of England is one of the most powerful people in the world. Now you might say, oh, it's just a totem position. It's not, doesn't really mean anything. But he's very powerful. So, yeah, it's a very powerful position, and we're talking about the current president of USA, who, you know, probably the most powerful country in the world. And we've got a former president, Bill Clinton. We've got both sides of government in USA, both agreeing to cover this up. Now, there might be some people in the Democrats that want it exposed, but they know that if that exposed Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, they don't want it exposed. So, when you've got both sides of American government, plus the King of England and the whole royal family wanting it covered up, and that's not even beginning. You know, there's going to be other people that Jeffrey Epstein manipulated and bribed and blackmailed and all that don't want this stuff coming out there. It's going to be very difficult to get it out. I don't know, maybe my guesses, my analysis is wrong, but either way, I think it's going to be very difficult to have it come out. And I think because Donald Trump was the president when Epstein was killed, or did die, if there was any assassination element to it, I don't think that he can release it. You'll need a different president to be in power for it to be released. And even then, I think it's going to be very difficult to have it come out. I mean, remember the JFK things? That was years ago. That was 64 years ago he died, I believe. 1961. It still hasn't come out. Well, there's bits of it have come out, but not much. And, you know, these things that happen at this level, they really don't come out. These are secrets that stay secret forever, and the only people that get to know about them are people who have access to that level of secrecy. So that's not your everyday person. They're not going to release that. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye bye now.